Okay, folks, so recently I made a post on social media, and like I said in the caption, this wasn't for the sake of, what is it, rage baiting or whatever, or, getting folks to come at me for the sake of like, oh, I want to post this to get people mad so they could, you know, react to it and leave the caption or leave a comment or retweet. Simply put, rage baiting for the sake of engagement for the algorithm, but that wasn't the case at all. I just felt appropriate. I just felt it was appropriate to add the disclaimer because my post was about, okay, which proposal scene was better? Zach proposing to Fatima in Zatima season 1, or Aaron proposing to Karen in the most recent episode of Sistas? And real quick, because a lot of people want to bring this up, yes, I am aware this is not the first time Aaron proposed to Karen. Now, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because I do not feel like going back to look. I only remember Aaron, quote unquote, I know this is a cop out. I don't even consider this a proposal. This was at the cliffhanger ending of the season 3 mid-season finale, the fantastic episode where Zach handed Karen a check for, I believe, 72 grand to quote unquote pay everything he owed her. And they had a beautiful, healthy, mature, clean break. Zach made it clear, I'm going after Fatima with all my heart. Karen understood, and that was the end of that. And then as soon as she got home, Aaron came by and asked if she wanted to get married. Which, in the follow-up episode, we learned that it really boiled down to the fact that, A, he got in trouble with the church for having sex outside of marriage, and he lost his position as like the leader of the male group at the church, or male counselor. And B, if he wanted to have more sex, he had to be married to Karen. So to me, this felt like a flimsy proposal. And more so, he wanted to get married but for the wrong reasons. And I take that personally, because if you know, I've said this on the channel, I'm waiting for marriage to have sex. And I'm 34. I am not going to just marry a woman to have sex. So I was like annoyed when Aaron did that, because I'm like, for this guy to constantly run after Karen and say that God told me you're the one and this and that, but then to finally propose, but only because you want to have, sex that goes within the guidelines of the Bible, that just showed me what kind of person he really is. But to be honest, we never found out who Aaron truly was. But hey, we're focusing on these proposals, right? Now, I said in my post, believe it or not, I think the Karen and Aaron proposal was better. Now, I am not ignoring the fact that this feels completely forced and rushed. But that is season 9 in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen. Because I remember when Zatima first got engaged. It was like, what, episode... Was it the cliffhanger ending to episode 8? Then episode 9 and 10 were the last 2 episodes of the season. Yeah, but they got engaged. I did not like it for multiple reasons. Number one, at that point in time, I felt that these two had no business getting engaged whatsoever. Number two, this was in the midst of the nonstop drama of Zach. Karen pregnant. It's unclear as to who the baby daddy was. Remember, at the time, it was only one kid, not two. You just had the Michael situation, and you hadn't even gotten DNA test results from that. And the vibe was just completely off. Fatima was pissed. Zatima took place, and I'm not talking about timeline stuff, but more so when it aired or came on BET Plus. It was between seasons 4 and 5 of Sisters. this was the beginning of the dissension of the Fatima character. It was kind of towards the back end of the season, though, essentially where we began to see the lack of, the double standards and the do as I say, not as I do mentality. And then that bled into Sistas season 5, and I was just, I don't even want to think about it. Of course, Zatima season 3 Fatima was easily the worst of Fatima, but this was where it all started. But essentially, if I remember correctly, Fatima was upset about the whole picture of Zach and Deja getting down at that one party. And at this point, Zach knew how upset Fatima was. And to me, this was also the beginning of his decline in the sense of, okay, Zach is going to bend over backwards and pull out all the stops whenever Fatima is mad at him or won't talk to him, even in situations when he did nothing wrong. That doesn't include the Deja thing, but I'm talking about like in season 5, where hey, I'll put your name on the deed for the house, or I'll sleep on the couch, or I'll do this, I'll do that, when Zach himself did nothing wrong. Or Fatima accuses him or assumes the worst, only to then be debunked when she confronts said person, usually Karen, but then never acknowledges to Zach that I was wrong. It was bullcrap. So he basically, look, I am not saying Zachary does not love Fatima. I'm not saying he wouldn't marry her on the spot. But to me, the only reason he proposed when he did was because she was upset. And it was a way to prove to her that, hey, I'm not leaving you or whatever. I'm not going to be an Ian. And that was the main thing for me that just really killed the moment. They go to dinner and she invites Ian to come down. Because apparently he lived, the restaurant was like on the ground floor of the building and he lived above it. I don't know. But either way, she invited him down to their booth just to make a point to Zach, to show this is what it looks like when I shut myself off from a man. To me, that would have been it. I would have been like, yep, I'm done. Because people said, well, Jeremy, don't forget. And look, I didn't go back and rewatch the scene. But then I actually went to my old video from the proposal and I had the 30-second clip. I watched that. It's like, well, remember, Jeremy, Zach got up, put his blazer on, and, Fatima thought he was going to leave, but he got down on one knee. And it just felt like he only did this to shut her up. I'm sorry. That to me is a flimsy way to get proposed, get engaged. I know it's what the fans wanted, and I know my opinion was not popular. Nobody dragged me for it. They're like, dang, don't be a party pooper. And I'm like, I did not like the setup. And I remember I talked to DeVal about this. This was before we actually did our interview 2 years ago. And he confirmed it for me, and he mentioned this on social media. So it's not like, hey, you're spoiling something. No. This is something he told me that he then said to everybody else on various platforms. Zatima season 1. That was supposed to be it. Tyler made those 10 episodes, and then it was supposed to fold back into Sistas. But because we blew up the numbers, BET is like, no. We need more. And that's why the show has continued on. So that could explain why they got engaged when they did. It's like Tyler was like, hey, I'm going to give the fans something special. I'm going to give them this spin-off series, these 10 episodes. Zach and Fatima will get engaged, and then we'll go right back to Sistas. But no. And Zach's speech and all, okay, it was good. It was an emotional scene, but to me, everything surrounding the scene is what ruined it, in my personal opinion. Now, as for Aaron and Karen, a lot of people are dogging them for proposing in her apartment. As someone who has never proposed to a woman, nor have I been in a relationship long enough to even fathom getting married, so dang. It makes you wonder, Jeremy, how are you so good at these discussions? But it's just one of those situations where I get it. There are all sorts of viral moments where it's like, oh, I can't believe this dude proposed to his girl in KFC, or I can't believe this guy proposed in public and got rejected and got mad. It's like, don't put the woman on the spotlight. I don't know. I don't know. Shoot, because at this rate, I might not find somebody till I'm like 50. At that point, it's like, man, what am I going to plan something for? Look, we ain't getting no younger. We might as well do it. But I don't know. I didn't think too much about it because, like I said, everything about this is so rushed. It's like the Karen we're seeing now is nothing like the Karen from prior seasons. So to have her go from not really wanting anything to do with Aaron to now just being completely in love with him, it's just weird to me. You know what this reminds me of? In the final episodes of Family Matters, where all of a sudden Laura was into Urkel. And then they were together, and then they got engaged and everything. It just felt completely off. That's exactly how it feels here. Where I'm like, okay, this doesn't really work for me, but I think I understand it, but I don't like it. Because for Family Matters, I don't even feel like checking, but we had to sit through an ungodly amount of episodes of Laura just completely rejecting Urkel for good reason, but still, to then all of a sudden, wow, I actually like him now. It makes no sense at all. And then with Karen, people, I get it, the traumatic experience that she went through and realized and Zach has moved on, but it just feels like a complete 180 out of nowhere. And we're just supposed to accept it. Like I said, I guess because Ebony is leaving the show, so the writers just want to give her the world now. I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me. But I guess it's one of those things where, okay, I'll just take it at face value. But looking at the scenes for what they are, it was beautiful because, they got their baby there. And, I don't think I'd want to be proposing to a woman in a place where she, her ex used to live and the ex I had to compete with, and, they probably had sex everywhere. So I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I just feel like the setup, I just think the Aaron one was better. I just, like I said, I feel like for Zach, he proposed at the wrong time for the wrong reasons. Like, it would be, I understand cases like, if a couple have been together for like 8 years and the guy hasn't, okay, I'm old school. I know that there are women that propose to their boyfriends or whatever, but I'm talking from the example of the guy, because typically speaking, it's usually said that a couple breaks up because, we were together for years and he never hinted or implied that he wanted marriage. So I just, decided to break up with him or whatever. So for my example, I'm just saying the guy. Plus, this is Sistas, so it makes sense to say things from the low down dirty dude's perspective. So yeah, if they had been dating for like 5 years and Zach hadn't proposed, and then all of a sudden he feels he needs to do it to keep her, okay, that's one thing. But for him to just do it as a Hail Mary attempt to stop Fatima from leaving, even though she took that dang ring off like 20 times, yeah, it didn't sit right with me. So in terms of comparing scene to scene, I think the Aaron and Karen one was better. But when I look at the grand scheme of things, they're both awful in the sense of it makes zero sense as to why they did what they did when they did it. But I don't know. If we're being completely honest, I was thinking if it had not been for the promo ruining the proposal scene, maybe I would have been like, oh, maybe Aaron would propose at that get together that Karen says she wants to have with everybody tomorrow. So I don't know, but that's all I got for you. I understand it. Yes, there is no comparison. There isn't, like, Aaron and Karen will never be as popular as Zach and Fatima. Ain't no way, ain't no how. No matter how What was that quote from Mean Girls? Fetch, like, stop trying to make fetch happen. That's essentially what these writers need to stop doing. Stop trying to make Karen and Aaron happen in terms of making them a fan favorite couple. It is not going to happen. It's not. So obviously, the fan reception to the Zatima proposal completely outdid anything they're trying to shoehorn in for Karen and Aaron. So that's why I'm fearful, though, that Zach will act some kind of way if he's invited to that get together and finds out the news about Karen leaving and getting engaged, because it's like, oh gosh, just don't do it. But let me know your thoughts on which proposal you thought was better and why, and I will catch you all in the next video.